Good afternoon, and thank you for attending today. For those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting in person, my name is Dan Adams. I'm an LCPS's Acting Public Information Officer. In a moment, I'll introduce Dr. Spence, but first a couple of housekeeping items. If you have not already taken one, copies of Dr. Spence's bio and remarks he will be making later tonight are in the back of the room on the table near the door. When Dr. Spence is ready to take questions, please raise your hand, and when called upon, introduce yourself and the media outlet you represent so Dr. Spence can start to put names to faces here in Loudoun County. You may ask one question and one follow-up at a time, so please let other people participate. You are reminded that the provided remarks and any recordings from this event are embargoed until Dr. Spence has an opportunity to make his remarks to the community during the recess meeting later tonight. I anticipate this will be shortly after the meeting resumes at 6:30 p.m. We will conclude this event promptly at 6 so Dr. Spence can join the school board for dinner break, and so those of you staying for the recess meeting may move to the press pool area in the boardroom. There will not be an opportunity for one-on-ones or stand-ups with Dr. Spence after this event, as again, he will be joining the school board. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Aaron Spence. Dr. Spence.
Well, good evening. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here with all of you this evening. I'm looking forward to starting my tenure here in Loudoun County Public Schools in just a few short weeks and having the opportunity to be formally introduced to our community tonight with our school board. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about what things are going to look like in the next few weeks and as we head into the new school year.
I wondered about the Individuals with Disability Act. It's never come close to being fully funded by the federal government, and LCPS special education teachers say they're underpaid and overworked. Some parents of special education students say that their children are being deprived of an adequate education. What are the main ways you plan to address those problems?
Well, I'll start first by saying that it is true that the federal government has historically underfunded the Individual with Disability Education Act, something that we'll continue to advocate for while we're here, something we'll continue to work with our state on to make sure that funding is adequate for supporting our students with disabilities. I certainly understand our teachers feeling they're overworked and underpaid. I think you'd find most teachers would say they feel overworked and underpaid, but our special education teachers do an exceptional job working with young people who have specific learning needs, and we're very proud of the work that they do. Relative to the parents, we want to assure them that it's our goal to make sure that their students have an outstanding experience with us in their schools, and that their IEPs, their individual learning plans, are developed specifically to support them in our classrooms. In terms of how we'll address any of those concerns, one of the things we'll look at, there was a previous special education audit done. We'll probably do a follow-up audit in order to understand progress from the recommendations of the previous audit, any areas of strength in our work, and then opportunities to continue to improve. Yes?
Hi, I'm Sierra Fox, anchor and reporter at Fox 5. Obviously, Loudoun County Public Schools has been through a lot over the past couple of years. Just what's your overall message to parents?
Well, my overall message to parents is I'm really looking forward to this new school year. It's going to be an outstanding year. It's my goal coming in from day one to be building relationships with parents in our community, building relationships with our staff, building relationships with our incredible partners. We know that for some we need to rebuild trust, and we're going to be working on that, but I also want to assure parents that the incredible experiences that their children are having in our schools are going to continue and going to continue to improve. Yes?
I'm Nick with 7 News. You mentioned restoring trust. How are you going to do that? Does that include accountability with any of the senior leadership here at Loudoun County Public Schools? Does that look like changes to the Title IX office? What does accountability look like?
So I would start with saying I think restoring trust really is about building bridges and building relationships. And of course, I'm not yet on the job, and so one of the things that I need to do is come in and begin to work on that. You've asked specifically about accountability. Certainly my job is to come in and assess where we are in terms of accountability for our work and make sure that we remain transparent and open about where we have opportunities to improve. Where that's happening, we're going to make sure that we talk about that and address that.
I just want to follow up on that. LCPS critics say it's used student and staff privacy laws as a blanket excuse not to divulge information about potentially negative incidents. Like, incident X happens at school Y, and instead of saying, hey, there is an alleged incident, well, we can't say anything because of student or staff staff members accused of something. Well, we can't say anything because of privacy. And the criticism is that it's been at the expense of transparency. And I wonder what your thoughts were on that.
Well, I can't comment on any specific things because I haven't had an opportunity to be involved in those decisions. What I can say is that in the interest of transparency, it's important that if we're going to talk about, for example, we're not going to comment on a matter because of an ongoing investigation, that we're just very clear about why it is that we're not commenting on that. Yes?
Hi, Alexis Gustin, Loudoun now. I know that other jurisdictions, other divisions have talked about not following the model policies that just were released from Richmond. What does Loudoun County plan to do?
So I've had a little bit of conversation with my staff here about the new model policies. It would be our intention to make sure that we are following the law, and what that means is that we're going to look at the model policies, make sure that we understand their impact on state and federal law, and then also make sure that where we need to, we'll implement those in compliance. That in compliance with both what's in the policies, but certainly making sure first that those are not in conflict with state or federal law.
I know when we first spoke via Zoom, you said first you want to listen and hear people out about what concerns they have with the school district or things they might want to see changed. But is there anything walking into this position that you're like, I want to tackle this or address this right away?
I think, again, for me, the biggest thing is coming in and as you said, listening and learning and assessing where we are today and what our concerns and what our hopes and aspirations are for our school division, from our community, from our parents, from our students, and from our staff. And I think that's going to take some time. Certainly as I come in, I'm going to be thinking about things like our strategic plan and how well our work is aligned to our strategic plan. And we will be out conducting listening sessions. The information for those is now on our website, and so will be shortly, and we'll be out asking people to come and share with me and share with my team what it is that they hope for in our schools as we head through this next school year and then into our future. And so really, truly, the first thing I'm going to do is be trying to understand what people are looking for, and then we're going to talk together with our school board about how we can move forward and meet those needs and address any concerns we have. Yeah.
I reviewed your contract with Loudoun County Public Schools, your employment contract, and I didn't see any specific measures in terms of performance requirements, in terms of specific metrics you must meet or the school division must meet in order for bonuses, cost of living adjustments, your employment. Did the school board ever come to you and say, hey, we want this in your contract, specific performance gauges?
No, so what's in the contract is that there will be an opportunity for me to work with the school board to develop the evaluation process. And that's fairly typical when a new superintendent comes in. They want to sit with the school board and come to an agreement on how the evaluation process will work. And that way we will both know as we head into the new school year what the expectations are for me and then hopefully what their goals are in terms of what how they'll hold me accountable.
So they never came to you and said, hey, we want these performance metrics in your contract?
No, that's something that typically you'll work out so the contract states that we'll work out the evaluation process when I get here.
Hi, Katie with Channel 9. When did you arrive here in Loudoun County, and what do you think so far?
Yeah, so we just moved into our house on Friday, and our furniture's not there yet, so it's actually just my son and I right now on an air mattress. But what I think right now about Loudoun County is it's a beautiful place. Everybody I've talked to and have been able to ask about our schools just raves about the experiences that their children have in our schools. I think we have a really terrific school division. I'm very honored to be a part of it and looking forward to continuing to support the work that I know is already happening here. Yes?
Max Marcella with DC News Now. I know in your previous school district you worked through the pandemic and school closures and all of that. Now as you continue into the post-pandemic days, how specifically will you plan to address some of the learning loss or lost school days that some students going into their formative years will now face?
Yeah, I think that's going to be an ongoing challenge for every school division in America, certainly here in Loudoun County as well. One of the important things for me is to really dig in with my team into the data around learning loss, try to understand where any gaps might be, and then identify what we're doing already to address those, and then what else we may need to do. My job as a superintendent is to make sure that we have the resources and the support necessary at the school level and at the classroom level so that when we've identified those gaps, we're working to overcome them.
And then just a follow-up, was there something or some things that you did in your previous district that worked and that you think you could implement here?
Yes, and I will say it's still early for me, and I need to be able to assess what we're actually doing. So I'll say these are the things that I think work, but whether or not they're actually happening here, I can't speak to directly just yet. A robust summer learning program is really important. We need to continue to accelerate learning throughout the year. So we know, the research tells us historically there's a slide in the summer, particularly for our younger learners when it comes, for example, to literacy. and to their growth in reading. And certainly we feel like that maybe has been exacerbated a little bit by the pandemic, and so one of the things we want to do is close that opportunity for any kind of summer slides by accelerating learning during the summer through some robust learning. We know that understanding our data and making sure that we know what each individual student's needs are, and then making sure in our schools that we're providing the resources to address those needs is critically important. So things like high-dose tutoring, where students are behind. Things like small group instruction, working with students who may need additional supports in the classroom. And then also accelerating and enriching opportunities for students who are ahead. We want to make sure that those opportunities exist as well.
Dr. Spence, could you pause just for a second so Alexis can check her phone?
I'm just gonna grab it and bring it back quickly. Thank you.
No problem.
What's the first thing you're gonna do when you start?
First thing I'm going to do is visit schools. So my intention is to spend time in our schools early and often. You know, you can't know as a superintendent what's happening in your schools unless you're in your schools. And so I will be there, I will be meeting our students, getting to know our teachers, getting to know our school leadership. And also, as I said, we'll be conducting listening sessions throughout the fall and heading into the spring, inviting all of our faculty and then also all of our community members to come out by feeder pattern essentially and really just talk with me about, hey, what are the concerns, what are the things that you love about what we're doing? We need to focus on that too. You know, it's easy to say, what are your concerns? But it's also really important that we continue to lift up what it is that people love about Loudoun County Schools, because there's a lot to love here. This is an incredible school division.
I think recently you had a chance to speak with some teachers in Loudoun County. How do you plan to improve their morale?
Yeah, so really I had an opportunity to speak with our leadership team. So I came and spoke at our leadership conference. But we did talk there about the importance of attending to our staff morale. I think we're seeing all across the country teachers who are feeling a lot of pressure. They're feeling pressure from we had a question about learning loss. They're feeling pressure from that. They want their students to be successful and they want to be successful in the classroom. They're feeling all of the things that we're hearing about in terms of how teachers perceive the profession and how others perceive the profession. I think for me, what I believe teachers want is to be valued. I think they want to be seen as true professionals in the classroom. They want to know that they're part of the solution to the challenges in their schools. They want to know that they have support from their administration. And they want to know that their community values them. And so I would think one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to work really hard with our community to lift up the educators in this community who come to school every single day to make a difference for children. And we need to value that and appreciate that, not just here in Loudoun County Schools, but all across this region and all across the state and country.
I'm sure you've heard this, that a lot of teachers are saying they feel like they're being micromanaged, that they maybe support the concept of parents' rights, but not being micromanaged about what kind of materials and what kind of teaching lesson plans that they can implement, that's really changed. There's all of this micromanaging is the word I'm using, but there might be some more other words to describe that. And I kind of wonder what your thoughts were about that.
So, you know, my goal in the superintendency is to make sure that our teachers love what they do. My goal is to make sure that they love coming to work, that they feel empowered to do what they need to do in their classrooms to ensure that their students are successful. And as to the relationship with parents, I will say that to me, the most powerful and important relationship in education has always been the relationship between a classroom teacher and their parent. And I've never known a place where a teacher or a parent couldn't have a conversation about how their child's doing and what their child's learning. Certainly in my 30 years of being an educator, that's always been the case. In my now 22 years of being a parent, that's always been the case. And so certainly in Loudoun County Schools, that's going to continue to be the case. Parents are welcome in our schools. They're welcome to reach out and talk with their teachers about the experience that their child has, any concerns or questions that they have about our curriculum. But our teachers have a curriculum. It is the state curriculum. We'll continue to follow that state curriculum, and we'll continue to make sure that our students have a robust and authentic and an engaging learning experience. Yes?
Isaac will be at least appearing at one 2-day jury trial for one of the indictments. And that's around the time where you're going to be beginning this school year on the job. What do you want people in the community to know about the leadership at this school system while that's going to be beginning in September?
Well, what I want people to know is that I'm really excited to start as the superintendent of schools on September the 1st. Yes, ma'am.
How do you plan to differ from the prior administration?
I can't really speak to the prior administration. What my goals are to come in here, build relationships with this community, build relationships with our staff, lift up our students as the core of our work, make sure that our teachers and our faculty feel valued and heard, and make sure that we're developing great partnerships both with our parents and all across our community to put the appropriate level of resources and support to help our kids thrive and be successful. Overall, I will say this, and we need to remember this, and we have to keep shouting this from the rooftops. We have an incredible school division in Loudoun County. We do great work. Our kids succeed. They go to the greatest colleges in the country, all across the state. They do well. They come out of here prepared for work. It doesn't mean there isn't room to improve. Any great organization knows it can be better tomorrow than it is today. And so our role is to come in and assess how do we get there. But we also need to remember there's a lot of positive things happening in Loudoun County schools, and one of my jobs is to make sure people remember that and we lift that up. Yeah.
So I'm looking through data that was put on the LCPS dashboard, board docs, and I was taking a look at subgroup data, taking a look at at-risk students, taking a look at special education students who need help, and the needle really isn't moving too much in Loudoun County when it comes to those subgroups. How are you going to help those kids?
Yeah. The data is, I'm glad you're looking at it. We should all be looking at it and talking about our student data. And it's really important as we assess that. I like to talk about it as reporting groups. I hate the term subgroups. But as we assess how our reporting groups are doing, that we are really intentional about breaking that down at the school level to the necessary supports and resources that a student needs in the classroom. So one of the things that I learned from a mentor early on was if you want to go from being a great school division to a really world-class school division, that starts with knowing the strengths and needs and names of every student in your division. And you start at the classroom level and you say, what does this specific child need? One of the things people will hear me say a lot is, we don't have to be great for 83,000 students a day. We have to be great for one student a day 83,000 times. So one of the ways you move the needle on kids and on learning is you know exactly what a student needs to be successful. That's a conversation between the teacher, the parent, the student, and the support specialists who are in our buildings. And then you bring those resources to that school, to that child, so that we can help them thrive. Certainly, again, you're mentioning special education. All of us know across the country that special education is an issue. We had an audit. I'm really interested in understanding how we've done in terms of implementing the recommendations of that audit, perhaps bringing in a second set of eyes to look at that work and tell us if there's other areas for improvement. We have a brand new special education director. I'm looking forward to working with her, getting to know her, knowing what her vision is. But I'm excited, and I do believe that we will be able to move the needle, not only on that data, but on data across the division for all of our students. Our goal is to make sure that every student thrives in place. So every student, no matter where they are, no matter what school they're in, no matter how much money their parents have, no matter where their zip code is, that every kid has the opportunity to have an incredible learning experience in Loudoun County. And I'm not going to rest until that's happening.
Just following up to Nick's prior question, is it because it's pending litigation that you can't really comment any further regarding Ziegler?
I don't have any intention on looking through the rearview mirror on that one. My job is to come in here as school division superintendent and move us forward. I wasn't involved in any of those issues, and although I'm sure confident that we'll have to tackle some of those as we move forward, what's happening in the legal system is I trust our legal system, and I'm going to allow that to play itself out.
Anything else you'd like to say?
I'll just reiterate, my family and I are very excited to be here. I'll have 2 boys in school here in Loudoun County, and I hope our parents will hear me when I say, as a parent, I made a decision intentionally to move here with my children because I knew that they would get a great education right here in Loudoun County. Would not have applied for this job if I didn't believe that, and so I hope that also inspires some confidence in our parents to know that, hey, your kids are going to have a great experience here. If that's not happening, you're going to let us know about that, and we're going to keep working with you until it is.
What grades are your sons in?
So I've got one going into middle school and one going into high school. I'm a little sad. I don't have any more in elementary. It was my last year. So.
Sandra Jones with WTOP Radio. Just maybe a follow-up question that someone may have asked. Why did you choose to come to Loudoun County knowing that there have been issues and there's been problems here?
Yeah, well, let's say 2 things. First of all, there's issues everywhere. In all of our school divisions across the country, we're all dealing with challenging issues. Public education is a challenging enterprise. We're working with people's children, their greatest asset, their greatest love. And people want us to do a great job, and they deserve for us to do a great job. So one of the things I came to Loudoun for is because I want to be a part of doing a great job here. And the other thing I would say, and I've been saying it over and over again, is why wouldn't I want to come to Loudoun County? As I've said, what an incredible school division. You can't find a more supportive community. We have world-class educators. We have great schools. We have a supportive board of supervisors. We have an incredible school board that wants us to do good work and wants to try to find ways to support us. So I feel really honored and privileged to be able to come to Loudoun County. And I think I'm just going to be a small part of taking us on a huge leap forward.
Any last questions?
Follow up to your question, I wasn't listening.
It's fine.
What was your answer on the transgender model policies the governor just released? Are you gonna comply with them or not?
Well, so we're going to work with our school board. It's going to start with a conversation with our school board and with our student services committee, and we're going to make sure that we've done a full legal analysis of those policies. What I think it's my job to do as a superintendent is to make sure the school division complies with the law. We need to analyze the policies in their whole and see where they are compliant with state and federal law. And if they're compliant with state and federal law, we will implement them. If there are any issues with that, we need to work with our school board through those issues and figure out how do we meet the spirit of what may be in the model policies without violating state or federal law.
All right, thanks everybody. Thank you, Dr. Spence.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you all for your time. Very nice to meet you.